So where groups were quite simple and quite easy to get a grasp of, hopefully that was okay for you, let's dive into frames. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. So what I'm going to do is copy over these three things. I will make a copy. So you can see there I held down the Option or the Alt key and dragged out a copy of the original thing. So that's what I can do to put things back to some sort of rough scale that I can work with. And what I'll do is I'll just scale this one down as well, or change the text actually. So I'll do this and change this back to, what is it, 16? No, it's more like 24, something like that. So if I copy all of these, now these are not grouped, I can frame this selection, which is different. The shortcut being Command Option G. And now I have a frame. And at first it doesn't seem like anything's different, but if you start resizing it, then you'll see that things don't change their location, and they don't seem to change their size. If you go from the left, it seems to stick to the left, and the same with the top. And only by digging into these things here, you'll be able to see the differences. What we'll just do is take that out. And if I select the image layer, for example, you'll see in the design panel that there's this thing called constraints. And so left and top are the default things, and this is how things behave on the web. So if you're not used to designing things for the web, what you'll notice is the behaviors you want to see for digital products, things you'll see on the web and in mobile apps, they'll behave a lot more based off constraints compared to more of a traditional group that you might find in things like Google Slides or PowerPoint presentation files. So these are quite powerful because you can do things like, if I select this circle, for example, let's put it in the center and let's give this frame a background color. So we'll use the fill and let's select like a light green type of color. And this is roughly in the center. Now, when I resize the width, that now follows the middle. And so hopefully what you can see by that is that your brain is starting to think and see there's different things that we can achieve with frames. There's something different here. And what you'll notice is that by using these constraints, we can actually make it quite powerful. So if we do left and right, we can mimic the behavior, or we can use scale to more exactly replicate what a group does. So if I set the width to scale, we can do that. But with the frame, it's great because it's even more powerful that as I do this, it remains the same. Or what I can do is instead just center that. So when I resize this frame, it then stays in the center, quote unquote, of that frame. One of the first things you'll probably want to know and learn how to do is actually how do you make the scrolling behavior for prototypes. And so we'll cover prototypes in depth later, but what's really important to work with is the scrolling behavior. So if I take all of these and change them to left and to top again, what I can do is change the height of this. And there's this thing called clip content. And what you'll notice is that things can be inside a frame and you can cut off what's there. And so that can help when changing what things should be visible, what things should be editable. One of the interesting things that you can do in Figma is the overflow scrolling. So when I do vertical scrolling, which is probably the most common thing you'll want to do, now when I put this into a prototype, so let's do this just to demonstrate the behavior. Now you can see as I scroll, it's almost like a web page. So now using these basic building blocks of a frame, how that fits together using the constraints, you can choose how things actually display together. And you can use this overflow behavior to dictate how things should flow together and how your page should work. So that's really quite going to be very useful and one of the bread and butter pieces of your toolkit in using Figma. So the last thing I'd like to do to close off this lesson is give you another example of just how powerful frames can be. So let's do, for example, an overlay. So when we get into this frame, if you remember, you have to scroll down to get to the blue circle. Let's turn that into a button. And what we're going to do is just create a very simple overlay, if you like. So what I'll do is group that together, make that red, and change the lines. So one good thing I'll mention to you here is that definitely keep an eye on your layer structure. That's really going to be helpful for you moving forward if you get lost or you're not sure what's a frame, what's a group. So you can keep an eye on the different icons here. So this is a group, for example, with the dashed line, and the frame is more of this like hash type of thing. So here we've got an X, an overlay thingy. And let's do a simple line here and here. And let's make them a little bit duller. And then don't worry, we'll go over this sort of stuff a little bit later in one of the later modules. Actually, I'll get rid of that just for demonstration purposes. So if we do this, we can very quickly create an overlay. Give ourselves some padding. Let's do that and that, and give it a little bit of color, just something, maybe not that color. Yeah, go on, let's do that and give it border radius. So here we've got our basic overlay, and this is a frame. And this is only possible to do because it's set up as a frame. So when we go into the prototype tab, you can actually create a new interaction. And when you click it, it opens an overlay, and we can select the overlay frame. And when we do that, we can add a background. So we've got the dull background in the background. And now when you open up this prototype, we can scroll as we demonstrated before. And if you click on the blue button, you can then see your overlay. So this is just one of the many different powerful things that you can do with frames, and what I really wanted to share with you in order to help you understand what's the difference between a group, what is a frame, and why do we actually have these two different things.